Hi, it's me, the autistic Gen X software developer with anxiety and depression. But some call me Tim. And today I wanted to talk about the first time my daughter saw a commercial. It was amazing. Now, let me preface this. We lived in Europe for 5 years. I was in the military. And in Europe, they had the Armed Forces Network. And they would show TV shows and things, but they were always like a year behind. So Survivor came out, right? And I already knew who won by the time they started showing it, so I never watched it. I actually never got into reality TV because of this. But when they would show shows, the shows had commercials, and the AFN did not show commercials. They didn't advertise. They weren't trying to make money. So in place of the commercials, they would add things like the Great State Quiz and this day in history and facts you didn't know. And just, they would just take up the time during the commercials. And so what little TV we did see, there were no actual commercials. We didn't watch German television. And Grandma would she would tape cartoons and send them. But, she edited out the commercials, actually. So, and then we came back to the States after 5 years, and the children had grown up a little bit and they were a little more conscious. And so we were at Grandma's, and on the TV, the daughter came running in. "Oh my God, Dad. Oh my God. You got to come right now. We got to call." I'm like, what are you talking about? She takes me in there, and it's an infomercial. She's never seen this before. This is pre-internet, so you buy things in stores. That's it. So this is pre-internet, so you buy things in stores. And the TV has never, ever before been like, "Hey, you can buy this thing right now. If you call, there's only 100 left." And she was just like, "Oh my God, I've never seen." So I had to sit her down and explain to her, this is how commercials work. It's not something to get excited about. We ignore those. But it just highlighted how many differences there were between living in Europe and living in the States, and how many things my kids weren't used to, that in America was just normal. And I'll tell you, when I left to go to Europe to live there, I was under the impression that America was the greatest country on earth. After being there for 5 years and coming back, I realized that's not actually the case. These countries in Europe, not all of them, but a lot of them are just as good, if not better, than the States. They had a lot of things that were more positive than, coming back to the States in 2001 is when we got back. And there was a lot of things over there that they just didn't have here. Like I couldn't find good coffee. I couldn't get good beer. At the time, microbreweries were not a thing, at least in Albuquerque where Grandma was. And so, there was no good beer. Good wine was expensive. There's no good coffee. There's no good Italian food. There's no good German food. There's no Kinder eggs. There's no Magnum ice cream bars. There's all these things, a lot of it food, that just didn't exist. And that's when I realized that when you go to another country and you visit, it's okay. I mean, you get an idea, but you don't really immerse yourself in the country. You don't understand, what it's like to live there for years, because after years, you start having all of those things that you never thought about. Like, they didn't have gas. In Italy, they had these giant propane tanks, and they would come and fill it. And then in the house, like your oven or your stove or your dryer ran on, they called them bombolas. They're like big tanks of propane like you would use on your grill. And then I had to get these filled. So imagine you're doing your laundry and, we ran out of gas. Now you can't dry your clothes. So you had to stay on top of this and have some spares. And then my landlord showed me this crazy place. You drive out to the middle of nowhere, and there's just a couple guys standing up on this platform, and there's a rotating thing. You put your bombola up there, you give them the ticket, and then they would grab a filled one and give it to you. So you just got whichever one you got, And then there was another guy in the back taking the empty ones, filling them up and putting them back. Now, let me tell you something about Italy. There were no rules or signs or anything. You basically had to already know how things worked in order to do them. So the first time I went there, I just stood waiting. I have no idea what's happening. And eventually a guy was like, hey, moron, you pay over there. Oh, so I went over to this other place, stood in line, paid, got my ticket. All right, I have 2, so I got a ticket. So then I took my 2 up and I stood there and I have my ticket and I stood there and I stood there. And Italian guys are coming after me, getting their shit filled and leaving. I'm like, what the hell is happening? And what happens is the guys up there, they don't know why you're there. They don't know if you're waiting. They're not paying any attention to you. So you had to be like, yo, and you had to wave the ticket in their face and yell at them, give me 10. And they would take it and do it. There was just so many differences that I discovered in Italy. You know, it was a NATO base. And so we got all kinds of exposure to, you know, there was British military, there was Italian military, there were Greeks, there were Turks, there was and Americans. There was on the same base, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. It just, you name it. Like, you would walk, this was funny. Okay, you know, you're supposed to salute an officer, right? When an officer walks by and you're enlisted, you salute. And you have to also salute officers of other countries in other militaries. And I got to tell you, you don't know. They're walking down with the uniform. They got a whole bunch of shit on. Nothing looks like American military. You're both saluting each other. You just salute everyone. You're like, I don't know. I'm just going to salute you just in case. And they're saluting me and I'm saluting them. And okay, because you don't want to walk by an admiral from Greece and blow him off. That's bad. But again, all of this just led me to understand that America wasn't like the greatest place. It was just a place. Yeah, there's third world countries that are worse. And there was a lot of countries in Europe that were kind of falling apart. The Eastern Bloc countries like Hungary, Czechoslovakia, those places were doing more poorly than some of the other countries like Spain and France and England. But, you know, you really got a taste of the different cultures. For example, there was a British pub on the base, and you could go there and get a sad, warm, flat beer at 2 p.m. if you wanted, and get some fish and chips. And we actually did a gig there one time. We played like a Friday night, and I got to tell you, I experienced some British culture. They actually had a rugby team and they played rugby, and the rugby team was at the bar, and we played Tub Thumpin' by Chumbawamba. If you don't know the name of that, it's that I get knocked down, but I get up again. Oh my God. I thought they were going to break furniture. They went insane. They jumped on tables. They started screaming. I mean, it was insane. They bought everybody beer. Like, oh, you played that? Well, now we love you. They weren't really sure about us before that. But after we played that song, it was like, hey, you're one of us, you know, and it was just great to be in this giant melting pot, right? Of just all kinds of people everywhere. And you just got introduced to all these different cultures and people and ways of life and ways of thinking and just so many things. As a final example, we did a Christmas party, and it was a all people Christmas party, and they had tables set up with the various Christmas desserts that they would have. And so the American table had Christmas cookies that was had, and they had all the different countries with all the different tables and all of their traditional holiday food, which was very interesting. But they had a raffle, and my buddy, Bobby, won the raffle. And the raffle was a bottle of ouzo from Greece. And I want to tell you that this was not legal in the US. I don't know what was in this. Oh my God. So the way you drink ouzo, I didn't know this, is you pour it a little bit in a glass and then you add water and then it clouds up to white and you drink it. And then you don't remember anything until the next day. I have 1 ounce of this stuff. 1 ounce. And mind you, I'm in the military. I drink all the time. Going to a German beer tent and having 3 or 4 beers was normal. So it's not like I was like a lightweight, but my God, I tell you, I don't remember anything after 1 ounce of this stuff. It was insane. So the first time they saw a commercial, it blew their mind. And it made me realize how many differences there are between us and the rest of the world. And that's okay. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things for the algorithm. And until next time, peace.